This conference will now be recorded.
Hope I'm audible for everyone. We'll get started. In yesterday's session, we were discussing about what is Helm, what is Helm chart, what is Helm CLI, what is Helm repository, how to manage applications, the Kubernetes applications, the applications developed to deploy in Kubernetes, how to deploy using Helm. We discussed. Using Helm, we can deploy third-party applications as well as our own applications also. Yesterday, we already deployed some third-party applications. Third-party application like metric server we deployed, right? If required, any application like Nginx ingress controller, Istio, or you want to use Prometheus, Grafana, or any application which you want to deploy can be deployed using a Helm chart also if the Helm chart is available. Now, if required, will I able to create a Helm chart for my own application also? Yes. So you can create a Helm chart for your own application. Now let's say you are a developer. Let's say you are a developer or you are a DevOps engineer. So developers might not be aware about all these Helms concept. As a DevOps engineer, do we need to support the developers or do you need to create a Helm charts for that applications to get deployed into the Kubernetes clusters using Helm? Yes, it is our responsibility as a DevOps engineer. You are going to work on the Helm also based on the requirement. Let's say I have this application. Let's say I have this application. I have this application. I'm taking this as an application example. Now I want to deploy this application as a Helm chart. Can I create a Helm chart for this application, our own application, instead of writing a YMLs like this, detailed YMLs? Because will I able to parameterize these YMLs? Will I able to use different options, different configurations to deploy in different environments if I use like YMLs like this? Will I able to use this as is if I want to do kind of a parameterization and all those things? No. At the same time, if you want to share this application for someone, you want to you are developing one application, one software, and some other companies, other people also need to deploy this application. Then is it a best practice or is it a best idea to share these YMLs to them and apply like this? Are you going to do like that, sharing these YMLs to other companies and ask them to deploy like this? If you are developing some own software or product, no. But instead of doing that way, can I create as a Helm chart? Can I make that applications available via Helm charts to the other companies, other people also if required? By creating these things as a Helm charts and maintaining these Helm charts in the repositories so that they can add and they can deploy. The way I deployed metric server. So is metric server is already, the metric server is already available as a Helm chart. Whoever wants to deploy that metric server, or they can use that Helm chart and deploy that wherever they want to deploy. Yes. So we can create a Helm chart for this application also. Now, in my local laptop also, guys, in my local laptop also, if I have a Helm installed, if I have a Helm CLI installed in my local laptop also, if I just have a Helm CLI, will I able to create that folder structure? Will I able to create that folder structure if I have a Helm installed in the local laptop? Will I able to create that folder structure, whatever folder structure I was talking about yesterday to the Helm here? Something like this. Now, once it is created, can I modify my values, my templates as per the requirement? This is going to just create a folder structure. But once the folder structure with the default values and default templates, do I need to again customize these values and templates to deploy my application as per the requirement again? These Helm templates, yes, we can do that locally in your local laptop also. In local laptop also, if you have a Helm installed, what you can do, you can execute some command. You can execute some command. Let me go to some folder. Any folder is fine. I can do something like this: helm create whatever folder name you want to give, something like this. If I execute this command, if I have a Helm CLI, just a CLI is sufficient. If I just have a Helm CLI, if I execute this command, helm create, does this folder structure gets created? The folder name will be this name. The folder name is this name. Instead of this Java web app, the folder name is this name. Within that folder, do I have this chart file, charts folder, templates folder, and values file like this? Yes. Then as a developer or as a DevOps engineer, can you modify your values, your templates using any editors like Visual Studio Code, or maybe any text editors like Sublime Text or Notepad++, editors like Visual Studio Code, editors like Eclipse, IntelliJ. In your local laptop, you can modify these YMLs. Once the templates are ready, will you be able to maintain these templates in the version control system also as is, or will you be able to create this as a Helm chart and maintain in the Helm repositories also if required? In the Helm repositories also you can maintain as a Helm packages. If required, can I maintain this in a source code also as is this folder structure in the source code, SCM also if required, normal source code like SCM. Also if required, I can maintain whatever way you want to maintain. So you can create a folders and modify in your local laptop also like this. You can create a folder like this. Now when I execute this helm create in my local laptop, I got something like this. The chart name. Now do I have that folder structure like values file, templates folder, charts folder, chart.ml? Tree command is not there. This is my local laptop. So can I modify my values, templates as per the requirement? This is just a folder structure, default folder structure. Now you can use any editors. You can use any editors. You can use any editors like Visual Studio Code where you can modify all those values and check in all these things. Now let's say this is my project. Let's say this is my project. This is my project. Let's say this is my project. If required, what I can do, I can clone this project to the Visual Studio Code also. I can clone this project to the Visual Studio Code also. Like this, Visual Studio Code will have a lot of plugins also, like plugins. So what I can do, I can clone that project to this Visual Studio Code directly. Like instead of executing git clone, you are executing that git clone via this Visual Studio only. So I can clone that project. I can clone that project to whatever location in my laptop, and I can open that project. Here, can I modify like whatever Docker file, Jenkins file, if I want to modify, you can modify and commit. Similarly, if I want to create a Helm charts within this SCM, I want to maintain that charts as a folder, that Helm charts as a folder I want to maintain. Can I go to this folder? maybe let me go in a terminal. I'll open integrated terminal here. Now I'll go to that folder, that my project folder, like here. Now here, if required, can I create a Helm chart that by using Helm create command, that folder structure, but I need to have Helm installed in this system, in this laptop. Now can I create something like this? Helm create, maybe like the folder name is charts. You can give. I am inside the SRC folder. Let me come outside of SRC folder. Now I am in this project. Now here, let me execute Helm create something like this, chart or Helm chart, like that. Now I got one folder like this. Now if you see, I got one folder like this, chart folder. So do I have these files, values.aml, chart.aml, templates folder like this, charts folder like this, that folder structure? Using this IDE, can I modify my values and templates as per the requirement? These templates, these values as per the requirement, can I modify? Then can I commit this templates changes once I have modified as per my requirement? Can I commit all these changes to the SCM also as is, as a folder in the source code? If you don't want to maintain in the SCM, can I create a tar file out of that Helm chart? Can I upload that into Helm repositories? If you don't want to maintain in the source code, can you create a tar file out of that Helm chart, and can you push that Helm chart into the Helm repositories instead of SCM repositories? Will you able to maintain that in a Helm repositories also if required? Yes, you can do that. Krishna Prasad is asking, sir, is Helm installed in your local MacBook? Yes, that's what I have shown, right? This is my local terminal. This is my local laptop terminal. My command prompt. I am in my local laptop. Do I have a Helm installed in my local laptop? Yes. So I can create like this. Now I will demonstrate directly in this server. I'll demonstrate directly in this server. I'll create that Helm chart directly in this server, that machine, wherever I have a Helm already installed. In this system, did I install Helm yesterday? This Kubernetes client machine. So I will install, I will create a Helm chart in this system itself. Yesterday we installed Helm. So let me connect to that server. But typically when you are working in projects, are you going to create a Helm charts in these servers? Basically, no. In your local laptop as a developer, like you are also kind of a developer. Do you become a Helm chart developer? If you need to work on Helm charts as a DevOps engineer, do you become a Helm chart developer because you are developing that Helm charts? Yes. So as a DevOps engineer also, we need to write some codes, some scripts, but not the way developers are writing. Are you going to write some scripts in the form of YMLs, like Kubernetes YMLs or Helm chart YMLs, shell scripts for automation, Groovy scripts for pipeline automation, like Jenkins uses Groovy script only, the declarative scripted. So you are going to write all those things from your laptops. Then are you going to maintain those things in the SCM? Like if it is a Docker file, Jenkins file, will you maintain in the SCM itself as part of source code? That Jenkins file, Docker compose files if you are using, Docker compose files if you are using, or Kubernetes compose files if you are using, or Helm charts you are using, you can maintain in the SCM. But if it is a Helm chart, instead of maintaining in the SCM, can I create a Helm chart and upload that Helm chart into the Helm repositories also? Yes. For now, I'm just using this machine. I'm just using this machine. Here, do I have a Helm installed? In this system also, do I have a Helm installed? As of now, I have a typical normal YML files. Now, let me create a Helm chart for that application. I am saying Helm chart, something like this, Maven web app chart, something like this. Sorry, Helm create, Helm create, Helm create that name. Now I am getting a message saying that creating. Now do I have a folder with this name? Do I have a folder with this name here in this system wherever I have executed this Helm command, Helm create command? Do I have a folder with that name? Now in that folder, do I have some default files, default templates? Kind of your Ansible role. Kind of your Ansible role. When you executed Ansible Galaxy init, does the folder structure got created for your Ansible roles? Once the role is created, will you able to use that role as is? If you use that role as is, do you think it will work? If you just executed Ansible Galaxy init, and if you use that role as is, do you think it will work? No, right? Do you need to modify? Do you need to modify as per your requirements? Do you need to create a tasks, handlers, variables, all these things as per your requirement? Yes. Similarly, this is just created a folder structure with the default values, default templates. If I use this chart as is, do you think that application gets deployed in Kubernetes if I use this chart as is? No. That application will not be deployed as is. But if you see, if I install what is going to be deployed, if I use this Helm chart as is, what is going to be deployed, I want to see. There is some data, there is some files also, because let me show you tree structure. Let me show you in a tree structure. If you have a tree, I don't have a tree software. Let me install tree software so that I will show in a tree structure. Now let me show tree, that Maven web app Helm chart. Now do I have some one file called values.yaml in that Maven web app chart folder? Do I have one file called values.yaml, and do I have one more file called chart.yaml, and do I have one folder called charts? Do I have one folder called charts, and do I have one folder called templates? In this templates folder, do I have some files like deployment YAML, HPA YAML, ingress YAML, service account YAML, service YAML, like this default files. Now if I use this Helm chart as is, what is going to happen? Let me show you. Guys, I can see what is going to be rendered. What is going to be rendered by using this command Helm template, this chart name. Helm template, this chart name. Is it going to show what is going to be rendered, what templates are going to be rendered, what templates are going to be applied when you actually use this Helm chart? Will I able to see what Kubernetes manifest will be rendered and deployed when I actually install this one? If I execute this command Helm template and that chart folder. Now if you see, when I'm going to use this as is, when I'm going to use this as is one service account is getting created. One service account is getting created. If I use this as is, the service accounts gets created. One service account, if you see, yes. And also, is one service is getting created? Is one service is getting created? Type cluster IP, port 8080, like this. And again, is one deployment is getting created? Is one deployment is getting created? Yes. But if you observe, for which image the deployment is getting created, for which image the deployment is getting created, if you see, for which image deployment is getting created, Nginx image. So this is just some default files. This is just some default files, default templates. Can I use this as is to deploy that application? Whatever application you are expected to deploy in Kubernetes, is that application gets deployed if I use this as is? No. Now there is a deployments get created. If I apply this, but I have not yet applied. I am just showing what is going to be deployed. Now, if you see here, I have this Helm chart folder. Within that folder, I have a templates folder. Within the templates folder, do I have some files like this? Let me show that in a tree structure, then I will do the cat. So this is my Helm chart folder. Within that, I have a templates folder. So do I have some files in the templates folder? Deployment YAML, service YAML, deployment YAML, service YAML, service account YAML, ingress YAML, HPA YAML, like that. Yes. Now, let me show the content of that deployment YAML. Let me show the content of the deployment YAML, that template. But if you see, it is typically a Kubernetes manifest file. It is again a Kubernetes manifest file only. But if I apply this YML as is, does Kubernetes can understand? If I execute kubectl apply on this file, does Kubernetes can understand anything? No. Why? Because is it using some kind of a templating language? That's why we are calling it as a templates. Is this file has some kind of a templating language? That's why we are calling it as a templates. So if you see, do I have some kind of a functions, variables here? Now, if you see, did the hard coded this image part? If you see, did the hard coded that image part? What image needs to be deployed? Here, if you see, we have a containers, we have an image. This is my deployment specification. This is my deployment specification. Under deployment specification, I have a containers. The name of the container, the image. Is this hard coded? If you see here, is this hard coded? Any image, what image being deployed needs to be deployed? No. But then where these values are defined, if you see, where, what do you mean by this line? How it is going to work? From where this is kind of a template. This is kind of a templating language. Instead of hard coding like this, what they are done? Something like this. Dot values dot image dot something like it is there. Values dot image dot repository. Values dot image dot repository. From which repository? So they have referencing like this. Instead of hard coding, they are referencing like this. Values dot image dot repository. There are a lot of things. Colon values dot image tag. Values dot image tag. So something like this they are referencing. Again, something like this. Values dot image dot repository colon values dot image dot tag, something like this. So from where these values are coming, where this image repository value is defined, where that image tag is defined, basically is that image tag and is that image repository is coming from values. Wherever you see dot values, wherever we see dot values, we call this as a directories. We call this as a directories in templating. So wherever you see dot values, is this variables or values are defined in the values file? Wherever you see dot values, these are expected to be defined in the values file. Now, if I see the values file, whatever is there in that Helm chart root directory, here, this is again one YML. Values YML. Do you see in the YML format, image is a parent. Under that, do I have a child called repository? In the values file? If you see, image is parent. Under that, there is a child called repository. And what is the value of that repository? This is key and this is value. What is the value of that repository? Nginx. So when we are actually deploying that Helm chart, is this getting replaced with something like this at runtime? Is it getting replaced like this at runtime when I'm actually deploying this Helm chart? Yes. Now that is image tag, repository. Then colon values.image.tag. So tag. Now when I rendered that one, when I say Helm template, when I actually rendered that using Helm template, I can see something like this. I am able to see something like this. In the deployment, I'm able to see something like this. Nginx is coming, but from where this 1.16.0 is coming? This is coming from values.image.repository, but this is coming from where? If you see the template, you see normal template, cat on that deployment YML, cat on the deployment YML. If you see, this Nginx is coming from here, but from where that is coming? That 1.16.0. Do have again some kind of a variables here. So if you see, they have something like this. They have something like this. They have something like this here. So is it coming from values.image.tag? Is it coming from values.image.tag? Now in the values file, if you see, do I have any value? Do I have any value under that image tag? Do I have any value under that image tag? Values.image.tag? Nothing is there. That's why if you see, what do you mean by this symbol? What do you mean by this symbol? We call it as a pipeline. I mean to say pipes, pipelines or pipes. So this one is empty. Since this one is empty, there is a function called a default. This is one function in Helm templates. This is one function in Helm templates. If this is empty, then what is the default value? Instead of this one, since this is empty, pipe symbol, default is one function. So if this is empty, what is the default value of that tag? From where this value is coming? Now instead of values, I see chart.app version. So if this tag is empty in the values file, is it taking default value as chart.app version? So where is that? Wherever you see dot chart, so do you have a chart.yml also? One more file. Do you have one more file called chart.yml? Do you have one more file called chart.yml? So if you see that chart.yml, as I already told, what is this chart.yml? Yesterday itself I explained what is this chart.yml. This chart.yml contains metadata, information about that chart. Now the name of the chart, this is the name of the chart. Now if you see, do you have some field called app version here? Do we see some field called app version 1.16.0? So is it taking as a default value? Since this is empty, since this values.image tag is empty, so is it taking this as a default value, this chart.app version as a default value here? So if you understand this one, do we have some kind of a templating language used in the Helm chart templates? Do we have some kind of a templating language used in the templates, Helm chart templates, kind of a variables, kind of a functions, kind of a pipes? So will I able to write some logic in the Kubernetes manifest files? Will I able to use some kind of a logic, variables, conditions, loops, all those things can I use in Kubernetes YMLs using this Helm templates? Some kind of a logic, dynamic behavior of my YMLs because of this templating language. Yes. Now, image tag is coming from there. Image tag is coming from there. That is how image tag is rendered. That is how image tag is rendered here. And what about all these names like replicas, from where it is coming, all these things also, if you observe. Let me show the deployment YAML. In the templates folder, let me show the deployment YAML as is. If you see from where this coming, from where this is coming, that name of the deployment, the name of the deployment, again it is kind of some function, again it is kind of some function, helper functions. So it is including this chart dot full name, this chart dot full name as your deployment name. So where this is defined, that kind of a function, your own function, where that is defined, if you see, let me execute a tree structure so that you can understand. Do I have some .tpl, one file called .tpl underscore helpers.tpl here, one file called underscore helpers.tpl. So that TPL is templating language. So in this file do have some kind of a functions, some kind of a Helm functions, our own Helm functions that is created by Helm only. If you see that under that you have some TPL, that underscore helpers.tpl. This is kind of your own functions. Now if you see, now do I have that one, whatever I am saying include, whatever is being used here like include, whatever is being used here like include Maven web app char dot full name, whatever being used in your template, is it available as one function in that helper, in that TPL file? If you see here, this is my TPL file, helper file. So do you see there is one function, this is like a function. We are defining one function, Maven web app chart dot full name. You can see this one, Maven web app chart dot full name. This is kind of one function started here and this is ended here. So do you have some logic here? Again, is it going to give that full name, the full name of that Helm chart as a deployment name? So this helper you no need to create, already Helm itself created this one. So it is using some kind of a functions variables again. So it is trying to give the chart name and release name, chart name and release name as a deployment name. So we have some kind of a templating language here. We have some kind of a templating language. Now if you see all the things, whatever you are referring in templates, whatever you are referring in templates like variables, functions, everything is dynamic. Here if you see, this is coming from values. Wherever you see dot values, that is coming from where? Wherever you see dot values, that value is coming from values file. Wherever you see chart, wherever you see something like this, a dot chart, that comes from where? Chart.ml. And some locations you see release, some locations you see dot release, some locations you see dot release dot name, dot release dot name. So what is this dot release? When I'm installing any Helm chart, when I'm installing or upgrading any Helm chart, am I going to give one name like this? Release name, my chart name. So whenever I am doing something like this, Helm install Java web app or Maven web app like that. So wherever in any template, wherever this is being used, does this value will get replaced with this one? Wherever in any template, if this is used dot release dot name, does this value gets replaced with this value dot release dot name? Yes. So you can use templates from values. If it is a values in your templating, how you will refer? If it is a values, how you will refer? Dot values dot that keys, whatever dot values you will use. You have a chart, that is dot chart, that is dot chart. So you are using some kind of a name while installing that one. Can I use that one using dot release? Can I refer something like this, dot release dot name, like this, capital? Yes. Kind of a dynamic behavior. Now if you see, everything is dynamic. Is labels also coming? Is labels also coming from some function here? So where this is defined, wherever you see include, wherever you see include, where that is defined, that is defined in your helper underscore helpers TPL file, underscore helper TPL file. If I show that TPL file, last time we see, we saw, do you have that function like that, define maven web app chart dot labels kind of a function? This is one function starting here, ending here. So is it going to apply these things as a labels? This is one label with this value. This is another label with this value. This is one more label. This is one more label. So if you see, when I am rendering the templates, when I'm actually rendering the template, when I execute that Helm template, that chart, now do you see those things as a labels here? Everything is dynamic. So if you want to customize these labels, can I go and modify in that helper functions? Now I want to have my own labels. Now can I go to that TPL file? Can I customize based on my requirement? If you want to add a different labels also, can I go to the TPL file and modify that custom functions? Yes, based on the requirement. Now let me show that template again, deployment template. This is also kind of a function. And one more thing, if you observe, what is this, guys? Again, some locations wherever you see this pipe, what do you mean by this? Pipeline or pipe symbol. Now, what is this again? N indentant, N indentant 4. What is this N indentant? What is this N indentant? That is again one function. That is again one function. 4. If I remove this one, what will happen? If I remove this N indentant 4, what will happen? Is this labels get added from the beginning of the line here itself? Whatever labels it is going to get, whatever labels it is going to get from that function, is it going to be added from the beginning itself? But is that correct? Is that correct? If it is going to be started in the beginning itself, so is this function is adjusting that whatever is written by this function, is an indentant function is making sure there are 4 indentations to that values whatever being added here? Yes. Let me show that. To make you understand all these things, let me make the changes in the template. Let me make the changes in the template. I am making some change in the deployment. Here I am not using that N indentant. Let's say here I am not using that N indentant. I am editing the template. Let's say I am not using this N indentant. Something like this I am just using. Now when I render this template, when I say Helm template, or when you directly install also, you will get errors. When I say Helm template, now you see the deployment. Is this correct? You see the labels of the deployment. Do you see, is this correct? No. Now does this needs to be indented properly? Otherwise, when you are using Helm install, do you think this will work? Do you think this will work when you are actually installing Helm chart? Do you think it will work if you have a template like this? No. You need to make that proper. So that's why do you have a that's why do you have those functions here. So let me make those changes the way how it was earlier. So this is pipe symbol. This is pipe symbol. This n indent is one function. N indent is one function. If I say 4, am I going to get 4 spaces from here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it going to be started from here? All those labels, is it going to be started from here? From the beginning of the line, am I going to get 4 indents? Something like this. 1 indent, second indent, third indent, fourth indent. So is this labels whatever I am getting from this function, is it going to be started from here because of this line? Now let me render and show again. Let me render and show again. Now do you see, is that correct? That is one function. Now what is this minus symbol? Some locations you see minus symbol. What will happen if I don't use this minus symbol here? Let me show that also. I am not using this minus symbol here. I am just using like this include. I am just using like this include. Let's see how it will render. Now when I am rendering, now when I do like this, am I getting one empty space here, empty line there? Because that function is returning some value. Am I getting one empty line there? So if I want to remove that empty line, if I use a single minus, is it going to remove that one empty line? So that single minus, is it going to remove that empty line here? In some locations, you see that minus. You see that minus. That is also have some meaning. So when I am saying like this minus, is it going to remove that empty line whatever I am getting out of this function? Now let me render the template again and show you. Now, am I having that empty line now there? No. So this is kind of a functions, variables, conditions, everything is there in that template. Everything is there in the template. This is kind of one function you are calling. Where this function is defined? Where this function is defined? Where this function is defined in the helpers function. Now, this is pipe symbol. This is one function. This is one function. Now, wherever you are referring kind of a directives, wherever you are referring kind of a directives, dot values, dot chart, like that is there. Now, let me remove that dot here. So let me say I have some dot here. Let me remove that dot and see how differently it works. Now I am removing this dot. I am removing that dot. Here I have a dot. I am removing. When I render the template, now how different it is there, right? It is looking as is, but that dot represents kind of a directive passing, that dot represents kind of a directive that is a input for next one. But most of the locations you see that dot also, everything has a meaning in the Helm template. Now to you no need to write this much complex, because that Helm create itself has created with all the predefined kind of a templates. The moment I execute Helm create, is it created everything, whatever is required, kind of a functions, all those things. Based on my requirement, can I customize the templates and values based on my requirement? But if you want to have more customization, you need to have a more customization. You need to know the templating language, Go templating language. So this is the example. This is the official website of Go templating language. This is the official website of Go templating language. If you see, am I using these pipelines? Pipeline is a sequence of commands. A pipeline is a sequence of commands. A command is a simple value or a function, right, with multiple arguments. So I'm using some kind of a pipelines here. This is kind of a pipeline in Helm template. Are we using these pipelines also in our Helm templates here, kind of a like this? Let me show that actual template. Am I using that pipelines, kind of a continuation sequence of commands? This is one kind of a command. Am I continuing to that another command, that sequence of commands, this pipeline? If you see this one, it's a sequence of commands like this. We have a pipelines. And also, do we have a variables also? Like within this double quotes, I am referring, but in Helm, we are referring as a dot values, dot chart, like that. We have a functions. We have a function n indent, all these things. Guys, if you refer this official website, you have all the details. Helm.sh. So here, to get started, right? What is that n indent? What is that pipeline? All these things can be understood here. So this is the prerequisites for installing, and chart, right? So what is the directory structure of this chart? What do you mean by templates folder? What do you mean by values folder, right? And how it works? What do you mean by this helper.tpl file? So in a helper.tpl file, what I can put? Template helpers, kind of your own functions. Is this helper.tpl also gets generated when I execute Helm create, that Helm create chart folder? Yes, that is also there. Now, step by step, you can understand how it works here. Now this one, this release.name. So this is kind of one variable. So when I am saying Helm install Java web app, is this release.name gets replaced with that Java web app? When I'm saying Helm install, Helm upgrade, or Helm template also, when I say that name, it gets replaced here, dot release dot name. Now similarly, here you can refer lot of values from values file also. So you have a lot of built-in objects, release.name space, release.revision. These are the built-in objects. And chart. Can I refer chart.name, chart.value? I mean to say chart.version also has a values in my templates. This one, dot chart.name, dot chart.version also in my templates. And you have files, you can load the files also like this. And a values file, importantly values file. So I can define lot of values in my values file. Can I refer those values in my templates like this? Dot values, that variable name. Yes. And there is a concept of functions and pipelines. if I say this is one function quote, so if I use this quote function, whatever value I am getting, is it something like this? Will it be in double quotes? Because of this quote function here, is this value will be kept in the double quotes, whatever I will be getting because of this quote function? If you want that value to be like this within the double quotes, you can use that quote function that will be kept in the double quote. This is one function. Now pipelines in the sense something like this. I am getting a value, then this pipeline again another function. This is one function, this is kind of another function. Is this function is going to return a value from this value file, and is it passing it to this function because of this pipe symbol? Again, will I get output like this within double quote? Whatever value I am getting, it is passing it to the quote function. Continuation, I'll get like this in the double quote. That is one function. N indented is one function. Upper is one function. Repeat is one function. Like this, there are a lot of functions are there. Default. Did we use this default also? If this is empty, if this value is empty, can I set some default value? Somehow no one defined the values in the values file. Can I set the default value like this if this is empty? Default is also one function. Default is also one function. Default values to define. Is that default also used in many places in your templates like this? Default here. Something like this. If this value is coming as empty, this value is coming as empty, are we setting default value to this one? Now you can modify as per your requirement also. Like we have a default function, we have a lookup functions like this. This Helm has very good documentation, but you no need to go in this this much extent to modify. You are just going to make minimal changes in your templates. Minimal changes in your templates. We have a flow controls in the sense kind of a conditions, kind of a conditions. Can I use some kind of a if else condition in my templates also? Kind of if else conditions. Let me show that if else condition also here. Now if you see in my template, let me show that. Now if you see, I got some error. I modified that deployment YAML. In deployment YAML, it has wrong number of arguments. Wrong number of arguments. In that YML, I modified recently something. In this YML, what I modified, I removed this dot kind of argument. Kind of argument I removed. I removed a dot here. So it thrown error. It thrown error. Now it has fixed the problem. Now if you see flow controls, what do you mean by flow control? Let me show you the content of some templates. Let me show the content of the template. In my deployment YAML and or some YMLs, do I have some kind of a if else condition also? Do you see some kind of if else conditions here, if conditions here? Do you see something called if not end like this? Flow controls. That is conditions, kind of a if else conditions. Now do you see something like this? If do something, else if do something else, kind of a end of condition like this. Now do you see some condition here? If condition. If this is satisfied, then only this gets rendered, and end of the function, end of the function. So if you see this, what you can understand, guys, what you can understand, that condition whatever I have highlighted, if if not, if not, values.auto scaling is enabled, then only replicas will be set. If auto scaling is enabled, if it is auto scaling is enabled, is this replica number will be set in the template? In the deployment YML, does the replica number will be set? If the auto scaling is enabled, you see the condition. If not, values.auto scaling is enabled, then only set the value. If auto scaling is enabled, does the replicas will be set? The number of replicas will be set here? No. Now, if you see, as of now, when I am rendering the template, I can see replicas as 1, which means, is this condition satisfied? Whatever I have in the template, is this condition satisfied? Is this condition satisfied? Because of that, can I see that replica count as 1? Yes. If you see, I have a HPA YAML also. In my templates folder, I have a HPA YAML also. If you see in my templates folder, do I have a HPA YML also? Do I have a HPA YML? Do I have a ingress YML also? But when I am rendering, why it is not rendering that HPA? If you see Helm template, that folder, that chart folder name, if you see, only deployment is getting rendered, service is getting rendered, but there is no HPA and ingress. Why it is not rendering? If you see, do you have that one also in condition? Do you have that one also in condition? That complete YML also is in condition, that HPA YML. If you see, now is this complete YML is part of one condition here? Do you see something like this? If condition. So why it is not rendering? Why that HPA is not getting rendered? Because values.auto scaling enabled. If values.auto scaling is enabled, then only generate a HPA. But what is the default value of that auto scaling enabled? That values, in the values file I can see. Now if you see, in my values file, do I have a property called auto scaling? Within that auto scaling, do I have another property called enabled? What is the value of that auto scaling enabled value here? False. So since it is false, is this condition satisfied? If auto scaling enabled, it is false. So false condition. Since it is a false condition, is this going to be rendered? No. And again, since it is false, in my template, is this condition is going to be satisfied? Because we are using if not. False, but because of not, it becomes true again. So since auto scaling is not enabled, is it setting the replicas as 1? Now similarly, we have a ingress also. That ingress, the way we have a HPA YML in a condition, in condition, we have a ingress YML also in that folder. In that templates folder, we have a ingress YML also. Is that ingress YML is also in kind of some condition here? If you see, when this will be rendered, if ingress is enabled, then only it will render. But what is the default value of ingress enabled value in the values.yaml? Let me scroll up. What is that ingress.enabled value? Again, it's a false. So can I use some kind of a condition like flow controls in my templates? Conditions also, not only variables, not only functions. Can I use conditions also in my templates? Flow control. So do we have a lot of dynamic nature in the Helm templates? Based on the requirement, based on the values, will you able to drive what needs to be generated, what values to be used, what should not be generated, what values should not be used? Can I do a lot of customization in my Kubernetes deployment using this Helm chart and Helm templates? It's using a templating language. Now at runtime also, is it possible for me to set something like this while rendering the template? Now let's say, is it possible, I don't want to modify this values file. Is it possible to modify at runtime also something like this? Auto scaling dot enabled true, something like this. Instead of modifying in a values file, at runtime also will I able to do like this? Yes. Now when I'm doing like this, can I see, is it rendering HPA also now? Is it rendering HPA horizontal pod autoscaler also now? Because the condition is satisfied. It is saying, since I have not given any release name, it is taking release hyphen name as a default name. Now can I give some release name also like this while doing Helm template or Helm install? Something like this, Maven web app, kind of a release name. Now when I'm using that Maven web app as a release name, can I see that name wherever that dot release dot name is used? Can I use that Maven web app as a release name? Earlier when I was not using this one, I can see something like this, release dot name, something like this. Because I was not using anything, it was using default value. Now when I'm saying something like this, wherever in the Helm chart that dot release dot name is used, is it replaced with this value, whatever I'm using as a release name? In the labels also, wherever it was referring dot release dot name, something like this. So because of this one, is auto scaling also getting rendered? Is HP also getting rendered here? Now, where this has been defined, again, minimum replicas, maximum replicas, CPU utilization 80%, is that hard coded in the template? If I see normal cat on that HPAYML, is that hard coded in the template? That 80%, minimum one replica, maximum one replica, is that hard coded again in the HPA template? If you see, when I see normal cat, no. From where again these are coming? Where again these minimum replicas are coming? Is it coming from the values? Values.aml, auto scaling that minimum replicas, auto scaling that maximum replicas. And again, is this target percentages? Is this target percentages also coming from values file only? In the values file, do you have all those things? Like target CPU utilization, minimum replicas, maximum replicas, like this. But here it is false. But since I am changing at runtime, is this instead of false, is it taking this precedence? Instead of this value, false value, is it taking this precedence? It is overriding at runtime. Guys, this is default values. Can I add my own values also? This is just a default values. Can I create one more variable, one more sections here? Can I keep referring all those things in my templates based on the requirement? This is just a default values. Can I create lot of variables in this file? Can I use those variables in my templates based on the requirement again? Yes, I can do all these things. But this is a default one. Did I modified any value, any template so far? I just executed Helm create. I have not modified anything. Now I am using Helm template command. What this Helm template command is doing is, what this Helm template command is doing is Helm template command is rendering the template and displaying. Is that Helm template command is actually deploying that chart in the Kubernetes? Is that Helm template command is actually deploying the application in Kubernetes? No. Is it just doing the rendering? I mean to say, Is it processing the template and values together and showing us the Kubernetes YMLs? So when you are writing Helm templates, can you use this Helm template command to see whether whatever changes I am making in the Helm templates and values and Helm functions, is it generating a Kubernetes manifest as per my requirement? If I want to see, can I use this Helm template command making changes in your values and templates? Can you execute this Helm template command and see whether it is generating as per the given requirement or not when you are actually writing the templates? Yes, you can use this Helm template command to do that. Now let me start modify. As per my requirement, let me start modify. Guys, if required, can I do the dry run also? I don't want to do this Helm template command. Can I do some kind of a dry run also? See, Helm, I can use this command, Helm install Maven web app, my release name, Maven web app, my release name, my chart, local chart folder. Can I use something like this, hyphen dry run, something like this with Helm install also? Can I do something like this, my release name, chart folder, hyphen dry run? Now, when I do this dry run also, is it going to show, is it going to show what is going to be deployed if you apply that, if you install that Helm chart? Is it going to show what and all things gets created? Service account is getting created, service is getting created, and deployment is created with these labels, with these replicas, with this image, with this image. Because of this dry run, is your application is actually installed? Because of this dry run option, is that application is actually installed? No. But without doing this dry run, if I, without using that dry run option, if I execute same command, is that the Helm chart gets deployed in the Kubernetes cluster to whatever Kubernetes cluster it is pointing? Yes. But whatever application you are expected to be deployed, is that application gets deployed? If you deploy? No, it is not going to deploy. Do I need to make some changes based on my requirement in the values file or in the templates files based on my requirement? Yes. Let me start doing that. Let me start doing that. Now, this is my folder, Helm chart folder. First, I will start making the changes in values file. Now, I don't want to use this image. I don't want to use this image. Can I modify my image name? Sorry, repository name. Suppose this is in the Docker Hub. Can I say something like this? Can I say something like this? Docker hands-on. Can I say something like this? Docker hands-on this repository. But in real time, you are not going to have in the Docker hands-on. I mean to say Docker Hub. Instead of Docker hands-on and here, can I use my Nexus repository, JFrog repository, or ECR repository? That ECR repository name, if required. This is just a repository name. This is just a repository name. As of now, my image is in Docker Hub. I am using like this. If I am not going to define the tag here, is it going to use that chart app version? Whatever there in the chart app version, that 1.16.0. But do I really have an image with that tag 1.16.0? Do I really has an image with that tag? No. So here, can I mention the tag here? Maybe like 1, 2, whatever it is, or latest like that. Now, since I have a value for tag, is it going to use the default value chart.app version, or is it going to use this tag value? It is going to use this tag value. I have just made only few changes. I just modified repository tag, a repository value, and tag value. When I render this template again, with a dry run you can do, with the dry run you can do, or you use Helm template command also fine. When I am doing a dry run with this Helm chart install command, now can I see, since I modified the value, is it taking that value, that Docker hands-on / maven -web application :1? Did I directly modify template? Did I touched any template here? Did I modified my template here? That YML here? No, I just modified the values. But if you see again, is this correct, guys? The container port, is it correct in our case? It is 8080. Now if you see in the templates folder, the deployment YAML, in the templates folder deployment YAML, the port is hard coded here. The port is hard coded here. So can I say from 80 instead of 80, can I say 8080 instead of 80? Can I modify template itself directly? Can I modify templates itself directly here? Earlier it was 80. Now I am modifying to 8080. Otherwise, if you don't want to hard code, can you do something like this also? If you don't want to hard code, can you refer some from values dot container dot port, something like this? Can I define this value in the values file if required? That 8080 value if required? If required, you can do that one also. But most of the times container ports will not be changed, because container ports will not be changed. You are not changing any container ports. You can directly hard code also like this 8080. Now I am doing step by step so that you can understand. Now when I am executing again dry run or template, whatever it is, now can I see now, is it 8080 port with this image? Yes. And if you observe, is liveness probes and readiness probes are correct? I mean to say, it is just checking the path on the route. Do I need to customize these liveness probe, readiness probes also to check my application context instead of route context? Now, if you see in the template, again, they have just given like this. Now I can hard code here, because in the template itself they have something like this. They are not done in the values file. They have not done in the values file. In the template itself they have defined like this. If required, can I hard code here whatever path I want to check? Otherwise, can I define this itself in the values file again? What path needs to be checked also I can define in the values file, or I can hard code also, whatever it is. Because these paths and all will not change, right? So you can do something like this, maven-web- application. Here also I'll say maven-web-application. And I need to use some additional things. Do have that period seconds, initial delay seconds, timeout seconds here. They have just rendered some, generated some sample, but they have not given any timeout seconds, period seconds. As per my requirement, do I need to define all those things? Period, seconds, maybe every 10 seconds, timeout seconds, maybe 5 seconds is your timeout, and initial delay seconds. I'll say initial delay seconds, maybe first 60 minutes it should not do. For this one also I will use. Like period, seconds. Copy paste I can do, but if there is any indentation problem, again, will it work? Timeout seconds, I'll say 5. Initial period seconds, initial delay seconds, I'll say something like this. Now I have done the changes. Now let me do the dry run. Now is it doing like this? Now if you see, port I have not given, the port number I have not given as 8080. The port number I have not given as 8080, but instead of 8080 I have given HTTP. What do you mean by this HTTP? While creating the port mappings here, the way I have given container port, am I able to give the name also? Name for that port like this, name HTTP. So far we were using only container port like this 8080. Along with the port, container port, can I give a name also? Here I can give ABC also here. I can give ABC also here. If this is ABC, can I refer that as a ABC here? Which means it is going to perform health check on this port. That port is nothing but what here? Internally, that port is nothing but what here? 88. That port is nothing but 88. Okay. So this is getting created. When I am rendering, templates, Helm template or dry run, now can I see all those things? Again, that liveness probe, readiness probe as per my requirement? Yes. Now if you observe one more thing, resource request and limits. Resource request and limits. As of now, do you have any resource request and limits? Resources is there, but empty bracket, empty flower bracket, which means there is no request and there is no limits. Now if you see the deployment YML, the template, I have a request, this resources, there is resource block is there. But again, if you see what is this here, again one kind of a function. This to YAML is one function again. To YAML is one function again. So that YAML content as is, from where it is coming, where it is referring, that resource block, request block, limits block, where it is referring again, from where it is referring, values file. But in my values file, do I have any resources like values.resources? Is this defined in my values file? Let me show that in the values file. I will show in the values file of that Helm chart. Now if you see, there is a resources variable, but is it like an empty flower bracket in my values file? Now I want to enable resources. Can I remove this empty bracket? In my YML file? Can I uncomment these things and modify as per my requirement? These limits, request, all these things. Now whatever is coming from values file, is it kind of a considering as a YML content because of that to YML function? Whatever text I have highlighted, is it going to be considered as a YML content and keep as a YML content in the template because of the to YML function? Yes. Now is this comes in my template under resources? Let me show that. I modified my values. When I am rendering, now can I see that resources now here in my template? Can I see that resources from where these are coming? This limits a CPU memory, request CPU memory, from where it is coming now? Is it coming from values file? Now if you see the template, there is one function. Called to YAML. Is this value is considered as a YML content? If I remove this to YAML function, do you think it will be in that format whatever you are expected to have? I am removing this to YML function here. Let's say I am rendering the template. Now it is not considering as a YAML content. You will have some indentation problems. You see like YML content only, but you will have a indentation problems. It looks like YML only. You don't observe it is something different. But if I apply this one, you will have a problem, kind of a tabs problem, indentation problem. This indentation problem will be there. Now I don't want that indentation problem. So that's why can I use one function called to YAML? It is going to consider as a YAML, that text as a YAML here. So I am using something like this, to YAML. To YAML is one function. Inbuilt functions, these are inbuilt functions. It is going to be considered as a YAML file only, kind of a YAML here. Now what is this? Again, I am using n independent again. What is this n independent again here? What is this n independent? 12. How many spaces has to be there from here? How many spaces has to be there from here for that block? 12 places, 12 spaces. Suppose instead of 12, let's say I'm giving, let's say 4, let's say 4, let's say 3, let's say I'm giving 4. N independent as 4. Now let me show that, rendering the template and show that. Now here in your deployment, now, 1 second, did I modify in a correct location? Where I modified in the resources? Yeah, n independent, let me say 2 or 3. Let me say 2 or 3 like that. Let me do the dry run. That YML function is what I am doing. You are already getting, 1 second. Am I using Helm install dry run? Yeah. If you see, do you have a problem here? Errors because of that unknown fields, indentation problems, and here unknown field called limits. Now instead of install, let me show the template. Let me show the template way, because it is going to show the YML. Let me use template way without dry run option. Without dry run option, let me use template way of showing. Now when I am using Helm template, do you see, is this correct? Is this correct because of that n indentation? Now n indentation I will use like this. N indentation I will use something like this. Now without using YML, let me show you. Without using this YML, let me show you. Let me show the template how exactly it looks like. Let me show you. Without that 2 YAML also, let me show the template way of showing. Now, do I have some kind of a problems because I'm not using that 2 YAML function? Do I have a, some problems? Error thrown, right? So you need to use all these things properly. So if you want to keep that content as a YAML content as is, I am going to use 2 YAML function with proper indentation. 2 YAML function with proper indentation. If I say 12, now let me show in a template way instead of dry run. Do I have a 12 spaces from here to here? Do I have a 12 spaces here from here to here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like this, 12 spaces. Is it properly indented now, that content? So that is how it is working. Now if I want to modify these limits and request, if I want to modify these limits and request, do I need to touch my template, or do can I directly drive from values now? Can I directly drive from values by modifying values in values file? So instead of this one, I need more resources. Can I say I need 250 minimum, 1 GB maximum like this, and 1 core CPU limit? Can I say maybe 500 millicore request? Can I say 512, no? 512 MI like this? Now I am modifying my values. Now when I actually install that one, is it taking that values? Whatever values I am modifying in the values? Now I have not enabled HPA. By default, what is the replica count? What is the replica count in your template? 1. Now if you see in your template, the deployment YAML, if you see in the deployment YAML, the replicas are being referred from this field, values.replica count. Now can I modify that replica count variable in values file? Instead of one replica, let's say I have to have a two replicas. Can I say like this? Two replicas like this. Now when I actually render, can I see instead of one, can I see replicas as two now? Because that replicas is being referred from that replica count variable from values. Now I have modified as per the requirement. But let's say this application is expected to pass some environment variables. Can I modify my template? Can I use env in my template? And can I refer those environment variables from values, or can I refer those environment variables from config maps by creating a config map YML also in the template, secret also in the template? Since I don't have a requirement to create a config maps and secrets, can I deploy this one in my Helm chart templates folder? In Helm chart templates folder, I don't have a config map and secret. But as per this application requirement, I need to create a config maps and I need to create a secrets also. Can I create those config map YMLs and secret YMLs also in the templates folder? Then can I refer the values from values in that config map and secret also if required? If you want to create a PVC, there is a requirement to create a PVC. Do I need to have a PVC YML also created in this templates folder? And you can refer the values in that PVC also in the value from the values file if required. So the whole intention, the whole intention, what I am trying to say here is based on the requirement, you need to modify, create new templates, modify existing templates, create a values, modify the values based on the requirement, based on your requirement for that application. Yes. Now I have done lot of changes in the deployment. I have done the lot of changes in the deployment. Now, why can I install now like this? Now can I install this local chart also? The local chart, something like this can I do? Helm install that release name, the chart, local chart now like this. Before installing, let me show you. Let me delete any application which is already deployed. Let me delete any application which is already deployed so that you can understand better. In my Kubernetes cluster, currently, okay, this application is deployed, this different application, but this Maven application is not deployed. Now can I execute something like this? Helm install Maven web app, that chart name. If I don't mention namespace, in which namespace this Helm chart get deployed? I mean to say that application gets deployed default. Now I am not modifying any values. Whatever values is already part of this Helm chart, is that values and templates gets rendered, and is it going to create all the Kubernetes manifest? Yes. Now let me execute Helm install Maven web app. Now is my application deployed as a Helm chart? That Maven web application is deployed as a Helm chart now in the Kubernetes cluster. When I say Helm ls in the default namespace, I see this one. Now if you see kubectl get all, Now how come this deployment is created? This Maven web app, this Maven web app Maven web app chart, how come that deployment got created? Did I manually created using kubectl apply? No. How come this service is created? The Helm chart. But if you see why HPA is not created, why ingress is not created, even though ingress is part of that Helm chart for template? Why HPA is not created? Why ingress is not created, even though that is part of your Helm templates folder? That HPA YML is there, ingress YML is there. Why it is not created? Because what is the default value of that auto scaling enabled, ingress enabled, because the templates are in a conditions? It's a false. Because of that, is HPA got created, is ingress got created? No. Now, even though pod is running, why it is showing 0 by 1? This you already familiar. Even though pod is showing in a running state, why it is showing 0 by 1? Because did we define the readiness probes and liveness probes as part of the template health checks? Initial delay seconds, period seconds, all these things. Now, by this time, hopefully it should be 1 by 1. By this time, hopefully it should be 1 by 1. So, is health checks are successful? Liveness probe and readiness probe is successful? Yes. Now, whenever there is a change, I want to deploy, can I do something like this? Can I do something like this? There is a new image. Without modifying the values also, can I say image.tag equals to 2? But if I use install, will I get a message saying that? Will I get a message saying that? Error, kind of a message saying that cannot reuse name that is already used. So if I want to update, what is the command I have to use, guys, instead of install? What is the command? Upgrade. It is not update. I need to use upgrade. But can I use something like this? Upgrade hyphen install. If it is not installed, it will install. If it is already installed, will it do upgrade? If it is not, it is installed, it is going to install. If it is already installed, it is going to upgrade. Now, can I set values at runtime also like this? Image.tag is 2. As of now, what is the image tag? The current version of the application is running with which tag? What is the image tag one? Now, when I say something like this, upgrade, is my application gets upgraded, my parts get recreated with this version of the image? Let me show that. Now, let's say I want to enable auto scaling also this time. Can I use option like this? One more option, hyphen set auto scaling dot enabled equals to true, something like this. At runtime also, can I drive something like this? Now, is that auto scaling gets enabled? And in the HPA, minimum replicas is 1, maximum replicas is 100. Minimum replicas is 1, maximum replicas is 100 in the values file, default value. So is HPA gets created with those values? Yes. Let me do the upgrade. Let me do the upgrade. Now, when I execute Helm ls, can I see 2 revisions? I mean to say second revision of for that application. Now revision number is 2. Now when I say kubectl get all, when I say kubectl get all, is it following some kind of a by default that rolling update strategy? Still one of the old pod is running till this becomes ready. Is this old pod gets terminated? No downtime, because in my Helm templates I have not mentioned any deployment strategy. What is the default deployment strategy? In that Helm chart template deployment YML file, we have not mentioned any deployment strategy. What is the default deployment strategy? Rolling update. Now, since I'm using health checks, unless until this becomes ready, even though it is in a running state, unless until this becomes ready, does the old pod gets terminated? Unless until this health checks become successful, is this old pod gets terminated? No. So do I have a downtime? Any downtime here? That is Kubernetes concept, nothing to do with Helm. Nothing to do with Helm, that is Kubernetes concept. Now, do I have a HPA also? If you see this time, do I have a HPA also created? I have a HPA also created. But why this targets is showing unknown? Why this targets is showing unknown? Because do I need to have a metric server installed? Yesterday I installed using Helm chart, but at the same time did I removed also to demonstrate Helm uninstall command I removed. To demonstrate Helm uninstall command I removed. As of now, no metric server is running. As of now, no metric server is running. Now let me install again. Helm install metrics, some name, metric server. This is repo name. That repo also has a chart called this. In kube system namespace, I am installing that Helm chart. In kube system namespace, I am installing that Helm chart. Now metric server is also getting deployed. After some time, can I see this instead of unknown? Can I see the actual CPU utilization on those pods? After some time, once the metric server is functional, I can see that one also. Now, based on the load, does pods get scaled up, scaled down? Minimum pod 1, maximum pod is 100, but I don't want to have a maximum pods as 100. Can I customize again that one using values? In my values file, instead of 100, can I say 5, 10 like that? Yes. Now, after some time, I can see that one percentage also, almost 0% now. There is no load. If there is a load, if average goes above 80% of the CPU utilization, am I going to get a second pod, third pod automatically? Yes. Along with that, since I have a cluster autoscaler also, if the pods are not able to get scheduled in these nodes, am I going to get another node automatically? Another node also because of cluster autoscaler? That node will be also provisioned. Now, if something is wrong with this version of the application, this version of the change, something is wrong with this version of the revision, can I simply execute Helm rollback to the previous revision, this application? While rollback, I no need to mention the chart name. While rollbacking, I no need to mention the chart name, just the release name is sufficient. Is it going to go back to the previous revision? Which means, as part of the previous revision, do I have a HPA? Do I have a HPA as part of the previous revision? No. If you see, is HPA gets terminated? Is HPA is deleted now? Since I roll back to the previous revision? Yes. And also, how many replicas I was having as part of the previous revision? Replica count. I modified replica count in my values file as 2. I modified the replica count values file as 2, if you remember. Directly in the values file, I already modified. So how many replica counts I was having in my values file? 2. So do I have a 2 pods now? Do I have a 2 pods? That old version of the pods using old image. What version of the image is being used for this version? For this version of the pods, what image? :1 image. If you understand, is it simplifying the process of deploying applications in Kubernetes, upgrading applications in Kubernetes? This Helm, lot of dynamic nature, lot of dynamic behaviors. Now let's say same Helm chart I am deploying in a production environment. Same Helm chart I am deploying in a production environment. If it is a less customization, can I pass values like this? Can I pass values like this in the runtime itself? -- set option. If I have to customize very less values, I can customize. But if I want to do lot of customization, instead of passing at runtime, can I modify or can I have a separate values file for prod, and can I use that file? Lot of customization I have to do. I need to have a different values for resources, request, limits. I need to do lot of customization. We can do that. Now, can we do Helm upgrade now? Yes. Again, if I do this Helm upgrade, what will happen? Again, is it going to have something like this? Image tag S2 enabled, auto scaling enabled like this. Again, will you able to make changes? You roll back and again you are making changes. Nothing will stop you. Now, Again, I have upgraded with which image tag? Again, auto scaling enabled. Image tag as 3 and auto scaling is enabled. Now, do I see auto scaling got created again? Auto scaling is created again, yes. But now why I am getting this image pull error? Still one of the old pod is running. When it is creating a new pod, why it is throwing image pull error? What could be the reason? Do I have an image with that tag called 3 in the repository? I need to verify. Now I see image pull error. I see image pull error. Now let me do this kubectl describe pod. Now do I have this image pull error? To double check, let me go to hub.docker.com, my registry. This maven-web- application. So if I see the list of tags, I have an image tag called 1 is there. So we deployed that image tag 1. We have an image tag called 2 is also there. We have an image called 2 is also there. That is also got deployed. But when I am trying to use image tag as 3, do I have that image here? 3 is not there. So that's why am I getting that message saying that image full backup? Now if I want to again upgrade, can I upgrade with the other image whatever I have? Maybe let's say I have a 13. Can I use something like this 13? Now if you see again kubectl get all. Now is it creating a container with that image called 13, the tag called 13? Once this is ready, then only old pod gets terminated. Unless until this becomes into ready state, this will not be terminated. So do we have a downtime in this approach? No. Now any changes done into that image, if there is any change in the source code application or any change in the configurations, once this is deployed, will be able to access the new version of the application? Does end users will be able to access the new version of the application? Any modifications, any fixes you have done in that change? Yes. Now I have something like this. While doing a rollback, can I mention the revisions also? The execute Helm rollback, will I able to mention the revisions also? That is what Krishna Prasad is asking. Now I have revision 5. Is it possible for me to go back to revision 1? Yes. So while doing a rollback, can I mention revision, release and revision also? I am using this help command, rollback -help command. The first argument rollback is name of the release and the second is a revision number. If that second argument is omitted, it will roll back to which release, which revision? Just one revision back. Now when I say helm rollback, something like this, helm rollback, can I say just revision as like this, something like this, to directly to the first revision? Currently it is revision 5. Can I directly go to the revision 1 like this? Now is it roll back to the initial revision? But when I say helm ls, it will show as a revision 6. When I say helm ls, it will show as a revision 6. But is this revision created from first revision, the first deployment, whatever we have done? Yes. Now again, in the first revision, do I have a HPI enabled? No. How many replicas? How many replica counts? In the first revision, I had 2 replicas. 2 replicas is because values file 2. Now, is it created using first version of the image, the :1, the first tag? Yes. Now, if I want to completely remove this application, can I execute Helm uninstall instead of Helm rollback like this? Can I use Helm uninstall to completely remove that application? Helm uninstall. So is that application, whatever Kubernetes objects got created using that Helm, is everything got deleted? The deployment service, everything is getting terminated. Deployment service and its pods, whatever has been created. This way we can do that. But now, since it's a local folder, since a local folder, since a local folder, now will I able to deploy this one? From other machines? Does other people can deploy this Helm chart? That Helm chart is available locally? No. Krishna Bros is asking, can we deploy again using revisions now? First of all, you completely deleted that application. Does that revision information is available? While installing, guys, while installing or while upgrading, is it possible to mention the revision numbers? While installing or upgrading, will you able to use revision numbers? No. When you can use revision numbers? When you are doing a rollback. When you are doing a rollback, that time only you can use the revision numbers. While installing or while upgrading, can I say install with this revision number or deploy, upgrade with this revision number? Can I do like that? No. There is no option to mention the revision number with install and upgrade. That mentioning the revision number is only when rollback. So this is how I can use locally. But how to maintain this image in the Helm repositories, I will continue in tomorrow class. In tomorrow's class, how can I maintain this Helm chart in a central repository like Nexus? How to maintain and how to share this one with someone else so that they can deploy remote Helm charts. I'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a class. We will start at 7:45 itself. Tomorrow we'll start at 7:45. I'll continue tomorrow. Thank you. Once the Helm is done, I'll start discussing about Prometheus. I'll start discussing about Prometheus tomorrow. So don't miss. Attend tomorrow's class also. Any question? Feel free to ask now. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Unmute yourself and ask if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'll continue tomorrow. Guys, refer this official website. Refer this official website so that you have a better understanding about what is that values, what is that flow control, what is that pipeline, what is that pipelines, functions, all these things in detail. There is an explanation here. So try to refer this official website only. Go to helm.sh, go to helm.sh, go to the docs, go to this helm.sh, go to the docs. Here you can see introduction, how to do that, how the templating guide, the chart templating guide. So you can understand what do you mean by variables, flow controls, pipelines. And also if you want to know about the commands, whatever I am discussing, Helm commands. Did we discuss few commands like this? Helm create, Helm install, Helm rollback, Helm repo commands like Helm repo add, Helm repo list. All these commands, if you want to understand, you can understand all these things here itself. So official document has all the details to understand in detail. Any questions before I wrap up the session? If not, thank you guys. I'll continue tomorrow. Whoever has not given the feedback, try to share your feedback at least by today or tomorrow. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.